Now we're going to look at concept 10, the final concept in our unit 9 mole unit, and we're going to determine the formula of a hydrate from a laboratory data. So a couple of things you need to know. Hydrate is a compound that has water in its structure. You learned that in concept 9. And an anhydrous salt is what is left after the hydrate once the water is heated off. Let's look at an example problem. Example 1 says William weighs an empty beaker and finds it to have a mass of 95.83 grams. After putting a spoonful of an unknown hydrate into the beaker, he finds that the mass has increased slightly to 99.87 grams. He heats the beaker and its contents twice and finds the mass has dropped to 97.22 grams. William is told by his teacher that the molar mass of the anhydrous salt is 74.10 grams. Determine the formula of the hydrate. So what do you need to do first? The first thing you need to do is to determine the amount of water that was heated off. How do we do that? Well, we know the mass after he added that hydrate into the beaker, which was 99.87 grams. And we know the mass after he heated it, which is 97.22 grams. If you subtract these two numbers, you will actually determine the mass of water that was heated off, which is 2.65 grams of water. The second thing you need to do is determine the amount of the anhydrous salt left. Just the salt, not with the beaker. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 97.22 grams, which is the anhydrous salt plus the beaker, and we're going to subtract out the empty beaker, which is 95.83 grams. When we do that, we get a mass of 1.39 grams of the anhydrous salt. So what are we going to do with those numbers? Well, this is a multi-step problem, so let's continue. So, third, we're going to determine the molar mass of water. So, we're going to need these values again, like we always do. And we know that in water that there are two H's, each with a mass of 1.00797. And that gives us a molar mass of water of 2.0158 grams. We have one oxygen in water with a mass of 16, so that'll give us a mass of 16. We're going to add these values together, and we get the molar mass of water to be 18.02 grams of water. We're going to need this in the next step, so it's important that you do this. Now, fourth, you're going to determine the number of moles of the anhydrous salt and the water. So let's look at these separately. So we're going to start off with the amount of water that was driven off, which we found on the first slide, which was 2.65 grams of water. We're going to multiply that by 1 mole of water over the molar mass of water, which is 18.02. We just determined that in the previous slide. And we're going to get a mole ratio of 0.147 moles of water. Now, the anhydrous salt, we don't know what that is, but if we look in the problem, the teacher told us what the molar mass was. So we could do the same setup. So we're going to do 1 mole of the anhydrous salt over the mass of the anhydrous salt, which was 74.10 grams per mole. And that is going to give us a mole value of 0.0188 moles of the anhydrous salt. Now, this is going to look very similar to you. This looks exactly like an empirical formula problem. So what we're going to do next is we're going to divide by the smallest number. The moles of anhydrous salt is smaller than the moles of water. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to determine the mole ratio of the anhydrous salt and the water. So the water and the anhydrous salt are going to be different. So we have 0.147 moles, and we're going to divide by the smaller number, which is the moles of anhydrous salt, which is the 0.0188 moles. And then we get a value that is 7.8 waters. That's close enough in my book that we can round that to about 8 total waters. Now let's look at the anhydrous salt. We're going to divide the 0.0188 moles of anhydrous salt divided by the 0.0188 moles of anhydrous salt. And as you all know, anything divided by itself is 1. So now we need a formula for this hydrate. So the formula for this hydrate is then going to be the anhydrous salt, that little multiplication sign, times 8 waters. Now I want you to go to your packet, and I want you to work on the 8 practice problems and the 5 quiz problems. Good luck.